Hello, everyone. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I am your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Ketanji was confirmed by the Senate. They had the vote, and no shocker, she's in. I told you guys from jump that I pretty much thought she was going to get in. There wasn't going to be a lot of pushback, and the only reason why I talked about it a lot on the show is because, I'm sorry, I still think all the sentencing with the kiddie porn stuff is weird. And I understand there's people who rate below the recommended sentences, but she was like 57 below the national average when it came to like possession, and 47, I think it was, when it came to child distribution, if I got those numbers right. So I was open to hearing her explanations. I never really cared for her explanations. I find it unacceptable that people want to rule and vote on things when they don't know when the right to life begins or where life begins. I mean, it's pretty settled science when life begins at conception. Whether you value that life is a different story, but I mean, people do have different values on people's lives. So I think that's why we need clear-cut standards and why we have the Constitution to protect people's rights, because you can't just take someone else's property because you want it, because you objectively think maybe it should be yours if it's not legally yours. And you can't take, like, we have particular rights to protect people, and you can do whatever you want, but when you start impacting someone else, that's where you need the law to come in and protect someone. So I'm not surprised she didn't answer that question, but the whole I'm not a biologist when asked what a woman was, that was crazy. So and then she's had rulings that have been overturned. Obviously she does have an activist sort of philosophy, and there's no upper court to correct her. She's just on the Supreme Court for the rest of her life until she retires or she, dies in the position. So it is what it is. You had Republicans who voted for her, and of course, at the end of the day, didn't really need the Kamala to break the tie or whatever. And I don't know how much Republicans really were fighting. Like, I know where there was a deadlock on the actual committee. But as far as, like, unless they were going to have Sinema and Manchin and other people to vote not for her, it was always sort of inevitable. So for me, I don't think we should be proud. Women should take pride in someone who's too afraid to define what a woman is. I don't think that's anything to be proud of, and Ketanji can be proud of her accomplishments and whatnot, and the Democrats can be proud that they got their person and that they accomplished whatever they wanted to accomplish. But as some kind of, like, I don't know, greatness of womanhood and race, she's a coward and is more aligned with her ideology than I don't know, objective truth and morality. So how can I take pride in that? And I don't. So, and you can say you're so salty. It's nothing about being salty. Like, I figured this was the outcome, but it's just not anything to be proud of. I'm glad the dynamics of the court won't change extraordinarily, because she's just taking over for Breyer, and which they, like, pushed him to retire. This Justice on Demand, this group who's for Ketanji. And by the way, one of the people on their board, I played some of his clips from The View, I think when he's on The View in MSNBC, he said the Constitution is trash. So she claims not to have a judicial philosophy. I don't believe that. She says she doesn't have an opinion on your natural rights. That's alarming. But it is what it is. It is what it is, guys. But I do have some memes pertaining to her, so we'll get to those. I'm not going to talk a lot about her today. I'm also going to talk about, in Michigan, Planned Parenthood decided to sue because we do have an abortion ban on the books, but it's kind of null and void because of Roe v. Wade. So it's been there since the 1930s. And so, if Roe v. Wade is thrown out in the court, which I'm not terribly optimistic, I think it obviously should be, but I just don't want to give my hopes up, guys. It would be like a great thing. I know for Clarence Thomas and other people, they could make that come, you know, to fruition. But I don't know if every other justice on the court who would vote according to looking at the facts of the case with the Mississippi ban and all the other kind of stuff is still gonna gird up their loins and come to the correct conclusion. I'm just sorry and pessimistic about it. It's safer to guard my heart in that kind of way, I guess, but I do think abortion is abhorrent. And of course, the children have a right to life. But anyway, if that goes into effect where it gets kicked back to the state, if Roe v. Wade gets tossed out. And so, which I don't think it should be a states' rights issue. You have the child has a right to life. Okay. So I'm like looking beyond that. I don't think it should be a states' rights issue, period. That's where I am. But anyway, Michigan does ban it. So she wants, Planned Parenthood is suing, and Gretchen Whitmer is suing, and she wants to flex her executive power to push it through the Michigan Supreme Court because she wants them to affirm that women have a right to an abortion. So that's what she's pushing right now, even though there's been a decision about this in 1997 that you can't conclude that that's not in the Michigan Constitution. Now, why does she want to do it this way? Because that's the way I think she thinks that she can win the easiest, because right now our court leans left. And there's some activists on that court. So that's what's going on in Michigan right now. I do have a couple of replies and stuff from people running for office. I was trying to find different comments and was searching their stuff and made some phone calls. And I got a couple of comments, but I'll put them together. I'm sure everybody will have pretty much a statement on it. And if they don't have a statement on it, that's going to be a problem for me. I'm just going to be honest. This is a huge thing that they're trying to get one over on the Michigan citizens. And Dana Nessel, she's saying she's not going to fight against the lawsuit and protect the ban. I understand that she's very pro-choice. I understand that. Apparently, according to this her comment in the Detroit News, she's had an abortion before. So I understand there can be some conflict there, but she doesn't even want, I don't know, someone else even stand up in her office to fight for the ban, the law that's in place. So you have an attorney general who's fighting to not uphold the laws of Michigan. So that's crazy. But before all this was sort of news broke today, I saw a video last night that was circulating around from someone from the Atlantic and Applebaum who just dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop as if it's not important, as if it doesn't affect any sort of politics. Now, of course, she didn't feel that way in the past when it came to anything Trump related, which is really the height of the dishonesty, how people react to the Hunter Biden story, because they know that if it wasn't Hunter Biden and if it was Don Trump Jr., then they'd be going crazy, be wall-to-wall coverage. So the topics we're going to handle today. Before I jump into it, please go to blacktnews.com, check out different articles that I've written. I've mentioned this one a lot, but I do have an article about the societal harm of abortion. People say it's not your business. I totally disagree with that. I mean, besides the fact that they want your taxpayer dollars involved, I think there's a lot of other issues that revolve around this being a huge systemic thing within our society. So please go to blacktnews.com, check out different articles that I have on that. I have articles on Florida bill that people are going crazy about, all kinds of different stuff. There's a big argument right now within the conservative community because people are saying, hey, if you want to take kids and if you want to secretly teach them things behind their parents' back, and if you want to kind of build up a wall of separation and have them trust the stranger instead of their parents, and you want to groom them in a particular ideology involving their sexual identity or whatever, then you're a groomer. And so people got really mad at first when DeSantis's spokesperson brought it up like it's not an anti-gay bill, it's more accurately described as anti-groom bill. They just hated that. And so there's some conservatives like, maybe that's too mean. That's too far. That's too extreme. And I don't know about that, bruh. I don't know about that. There was one person who tweeted out who actually did go through a transition, a detransition, and wrote about her account. Her name is Helena. I didn't read her story on the air, but I'd like to get her on, honestly, to talk about it. But she talked about like, no, something like that right now is actually necessary to put it in those kind of words and in those kind of terms. So trying to see if I have the tweet saved really quickly. I do not. I know Allie Stuckley tweeted it out. 1 second, I want to read it. By the way, you guys are great. Like on my Facebook page, I had 2 negative reviews. I had a couple negative reviews, which some people have called me homophobic and transphobic and Uncle Tom and said racist stuff, blah, blah, blah. But like someone was like, said the food was spoiled and other kind of stuff. I'm like, this person like made up services I don't even offer. And then I just shared it. When people like leave negative comments or really nasty comments, I do share them. So I do plan to embarrass you if you want to come and act a fool on my page. And of course, I had great people who follow my page who confronted them and then left good reviews and stuff. So I really do appreciate you guys for sticking up for Black Tea, my platform. You guys are great. Here's a tweet. There's a place for precise terminology. There's also a place for meme-tic terms that convey a difficult to articulate concept in a way many people can intuitively understand. Groomer applied to teachers and other adults who manipulate kids into gender confusion accomplishes this. And this is a young woman who was confused about those things, went and did harm to herself and realized that she'd made a terrible mistake. And she was someone who was like radicalized on Tumblr. So, which I was never a big Tumblr person, but I can see that happening. And so she really did detail her story. So I'm going to be writing about that, tackling that soon. So anyway, please make sure that you're following content on the website on blacktnews.com. If you enjoy what I do here, I do ask that you consider going to blacktnews.com/donate and leaving a donation, whatever you guys can do to help, because there are costs like associated with the streaming and running the website and other things. And I do have some cool things on the horizon that I'm planning, and it all comes together because of your support. And I really do appreciate you guys. If you guys want to do 25, 50, 100, whatever you guys would like to do, I appreciate everyone who shares the live around, everyone who follows me on the different platforms. It all really does help. And I do appreciate you guys, especially like today, when you guys jumped on the review train. So that really does make me feel good. And I could always, I guess, just turn the reviews off because mostly, I guess, when people feel that it's negative, they want to go on there and just try to 1-star you or whatnot. But the dumb things that they say, I still like to highlight, and then I know people will kind of come in to the rescue. So that's why I keep it on there. And I do appreciate people leaving their reviews. When people say stuff like it's misinformation, please, explain how, be specific. I hate when people shoot their shot and they just totally miss by just, I don't know, spilling their feelings everywhere. This is a fact kind of place. One of my favorite comments, though, someone said, I wish half the things she said aren't true because some of these things are horrific. And I'm like, I wish that were the case. I wish that were the case. That a lot of this stuff wasn't true. And unfortunately, that's just the world that we live in right now. I do also want to thank Brighter Michigan PAC. I'm in their studio today. If I say something today that triggers you, they don't care. I don't care. It doesn't work like that. But I just appreciate that they like to uplift conservative voices, especially in the state of Michigan where I live. And man, we got to do a lot of work to take down Gretchen Whitmer and Dana Nessel. So very quickly, let's go back to the Ketanji thing. I'm not going to talk about this long. I've talked about it for a while. I've talked about her record. I've talked about some of her cases. We've talked about the dumb things she said during the confirmation hearing. We've talked about racism on the left and how big she is a diversity hire. You can't really deny that, because if she had the same resume and was white or just a man, she wouldn't have been selected. So it's kind of ironic that she's going to recuse herself from the affirmative action case, which I even said that joke already. So I'm not going to go into it. She got her, confirmation, pretty much was a done deal from jump. if this was going to like tilt the court or something in some kind of astronomical way, maybe there would have been more pushback. I think there should have been more pushback. But it is what it is. We got squishy people like Romney and so on. But Kamala Harris had a word salad, a deep word salad. So I'm going to go ahead and play her words.
There's so much about what's happening in the world now that is presenting some of the worst of this moment and human behaviors. And then we have a moment like this that I think reminds us that there is still so much yet to accomplish and that we can accomplish.
So, again, she's the vice president of the United States. So like, if people really do feel like, I understand people want to take pride in the moment, but we do know that it is possible to be a Black person on the Supreme Court. She's now the third person. I'm gonna go dare say she's a woman, though. That might confuse her because she's not a biologist. I'm not a biologist. There's just a lot of biology happening. But she is the first Black woman, but she's not the first woman. So obviously there's other women on the court. There's a woman of color on the court right now, Sotomayor, who's no prize either. So it's really not impossible to imagine yourself being able to achieve what she's been able to achieve. And if you think that, maybe you're just uninformed. And I don't know, I guess I was just raised kind of different because my parents, particularly my dad, never raised us to believe that our race or gender or anything like that could stop you. And like, it wasn't even really a conversation. Like, and he just believed that we could do things from the perspective of a Christian. There's like, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, the head, not the tail, above only beneath. The God prepare, a table for you in the wilderness, like, make your enemy your footstool. There's just a lot of like accomplished sort of, you can conquer the world sort of mentality that comes throughout, I don't know, that you should have as a Christian. So I did grow up with that sort of confidence. And it does help when you do have parents who are present and love you in life. I know a lot of people do not have that, unfortunately. But there was this mentality that you can do this because you're my child. There was just encouragement. Like, there's nothing that you can't accomplish. Like, you're a bar. Like, someone said something to my dad, because he's a big conservative stuff, and they're like, you're a white supremacist, which is just wild when people say that about Black people. And he's like, no, I believe in bar supremacy. like just, my kids are gonna be able to do anything. One time, actually, someone actually it was his mom, I think, who said, you think your kids can do everything. I think somebody said something to her, a little messy, like family stuff sometimes. And she's like, you think your kids can do everything? And he's like, well, why don't you start with what they can't do and we'll go from there. And then she pondered a bit and realized the man was right. And so we are, not to humble brag, we are a multi-talented family. We got a lot going on, but we were always determined to do well. And me, myself, personally, I've always been a very determined young woman to accomplish my goals, my dreams, and etc. So I can understand that there are people out there who are like really happy about Ketanji and really happy about Harris, and they feel encouraged because they did it. I've just never been the person who needs someone else to do it, because I am that person myself. I can go, I don't need someone else to fight for my dream. I will go do it myself. So I know everyone can't relate to that. But that's just how I was raised. That's just how I was raised. So I got good parents. What can I say? What can I say? I'm grateful to live in the sort of home that I grew up in. But let's get to the memes, because this is the last I want to talk about Ketanji and whatnot, and I want to move on to the Whitmer stuff. So Right to Bear memes, I have 2 memes from them today, and one is really good, but the other is like a masterpiece. So here is the first one. So why don't you take a seat? Which is like, that's the, I think, the catch a predator guy right there. So, given her history and some of her cases, that's a good one. That's a solid one right there. But this one right here is a freaking masterpiece. Is the masterpiece. It just kind of sums up so much going on right now with the Disney and the groomer conversation that I had with you guys earlier, and the they're not at all secret gay agenda and whatnot, and then Biden in the Mickey Mouse ears. It's just perfect. It's such a great meme. Right to bear memes, amazing. Um, Quickly becoming one of my favorite go-to accounts as far as like memes and stuff. Absolutely. So let's move on to Gretchen Whitmer. So as I said, in Michigan, we do have an abortion ban on the books because Roe v. Wade, it's pretty null and void, and it's just kind of been sitting. So people are afraid because if Roe v. Wade is gone, which it should be, it's an awful overreach. People like, men shouldn't have decisions. It's like, okay, all men like decided that one, and then they use like language from like not Larry Later, but the other guy from NARAL, and they like would openly lie to women and other people to accomplish their goals, which Larry Later admitted because he ended up having a conversion and became pro-life once the invention of the sonogram came to be, and that helped to realize, oh crap, what we're doing is evil. So I can't remember off the top of my head the other name of the guy, but there's two founders of NARAL, and Larry Later was the one who converted, and but the other guy, he had a book and other stuff that people had that they actually quoted several times within the Roe v. Wade case. So just a lot of stuff that's wrong with the Roe v. Wade situation, according, and especially since the person who they used in the case, she said that she actually had her baby. She didn't even have an abortion, and she claimed that she was raped. She wasn't raped. So just a lot of lies abound to make that court case happen. So anyway, if it's gone, it kicks back to the state. It doesn't ban abortion everywhere, but it will kick back to the states and whatever their laws are. So in the case of Michigan, there is a ban. So Planned Parenthood is suing, and Gretchen Whitmer is suing. Now, at first, I started my day with Gretchen Whitmer, who just like announced it on Facebook, and I was pretty livid and upset about it. But then I found out about the Planned Parenthood one, and Dana Nessel said that she's not going to defend the abortion ban. Now, she's the Attorney General of the state, and that is the law on the books. So you're just not going to uphold the law. You're just not going to uphold the law at all, in the least bit. That seems a little crazy to me. Now, everyone knows that she's very pro-choice. That's not a secret. And she said before, I think, that she wouldn't enforce any sort of laws or whatever and prosecute, I don't know, clinics and women, etc. Because they were trying to do like a heartbeat bill some time ago that didn't end up getting enough signatures and stuff. But to just flat out say that she's not going to follow the law. And this is from the Detroit News. In a highly unusual move, the Democratic Attorney General said she will not even set up a conflict wall in her office to defend the case. So no defense at all. And not until she is ordered by a court. So she's just like going wild, wild west. I'm going to do my own thing. I don't care. You have to make me do it. She said, I don't want to use the resources of my offices, and I don't think I should be made to use the resources of my office to enforce a law that I know will result in women dying in this state. First of all, is she a biologist? No, for real though. Our gender and stuff is actually determined within the womb. And obviously, there are hundreds of thousands of women who are killed every year in abortion. Thousands a day. So, with that being said, what she just said there is ridiculous. And she said, I didn't become an attorney general so I could head an office that put women in a position in which some of them would likely die. Now, if people are referring to back alley abortions, that's one of the things that NARAL actually lied about back in the day. They lied about the amount of women who actually suffered from like illegal abortions and back alley abortions because they wanted to dupe gullible feminists into supporting abortion. And they would also lie about the amount of public support for abortion because they wanted to sway people in that direction. So this idea that there'd be so many women going out there and killing themselves because they couldn't get an abortion. It's just not true. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen and that would be awful. But here's the thing about that, because they're kind of admitting something pretty telling and heinous, in my opinion. So if a woman is so desperate in the state when she has an abortion, to the point where if she cannot get one, she would be willing to risk killing herself, do you think it is good that women in general, in that suicidal mindset, it's good to send them to an abortion clinic, to send them to a butcher, rather than, I don't know, a church or something that can counsel them, or just counseling in general, or some kind of pregnancy crisis center? If a woman has that sort of mentality where she's so desperate that she'd be willing to hurt herself, do you think the best option is to send her to a place where someone gets paid to kill that baby and then paid to sell it? Like, that's crazy to me. So this is just a continuous cycle of abuse. How does this help women? How does this help women? And then when you look at the sheer numbers of abortions, there's 600,000 in the US every year. So are you going to tell me that there's going to be more women who would harm themselves than women who are killed in actual abortions? No, not even close. So if you're telling me we could save hundreds of thousands of people every year, including women, I would rather go with the ban. I'd rather go with the ban. But I do believe if you don't have this option to use abortion, many people use it as healthcare. I do believe the culture surrounding it will change. I think people will be a little more careful. I think people will be a little more selective. I do not think we'll have hundreds of thousands of women doing back alley abortions. Will some women probably try that? Probably. I don't think you can stop that. And I don't think that's a good reason to not make something illegal. Murder is illegal and people still do it. It is illegal to go to a gun-free zone and hurt kids. And it's awful when it happens. So we don't just get rid of laws because people are going to disobey them. That's not how it works. So she has a hysterical, inaccurate, silly opinion that just furthers the abuse of more women. And she's a silly activist, crazy person. Dana Nessel is the person who said, hey, vote for me. I don't have a penis and I'm not going to sexually assault you. And I'm not joking. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm not joking. That was her ad for her Democrat primary. She kind of scooted into office. People did not think she was, like a lot of Republicans, I guess, just thought that Tom Leonard was going to just sweep it or whatever. But we had a huge turnout in 2018. It was like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Whitmer got just like a couple thousand less votes than Hillary Clinton did in the presidential election. Now, of course, there was like, it wasn't a very enthusiastic election for Hillary Clinton that year, but that's still like a ridiculous amount of people who came out in the midterms. And there were some ballot proposals that drove people out, like marijuana and stuff. And there was a rebellion against Trump sort of reaction too. You can't deny that. And she was able to get in. But she's a crazy person. and is if you're like, that's some harsh language, I don't have time to be nice today. And I feel like I repeat that so much. I'm gonna have to put that on a shirt, but at the same time I'm like, should I put that on a shirt? And it's like, yes, I should, because I just don't have time. Sometimes you gotta be like an old school sort of prophet in the Old Testament or something. You don't have time to be nice to all these people when there's such heinous, crazy things in the world. So Right to Life in Michigan accused Nessel of violating her oath of office. um He said Governor Whitmer wants to cheat, the group said in a tweet. The question is if Michigan Supreme Court wants to torch their credibility as well. They should think about how these precedents they want to set will be used in the future by other officials, which there's some activists on the Supreme Court, and we'll get to that. Nessel noted it was possible a court could order her to set up a conflict law for the defense of the state law, or more likely that the GOP-led legislature would intervene and defend the law. And I'm sure Republicans won't just let this slide and whatnot, but she should really do her job, or at least set up the office. She's the head and was ordered to that position, but she represents the people in the law. She should be upholding Michigan law. She is not a tyrannical person who should just be able to do whatever she wants and not even set up any resources within her office to protect Michigan law. You may be pro-choice, but come on. Do you think that's correct, the right way to go about things? It's not what she was elected for. She also talked about how she had an abortion, apparently. She said, I didn't work as hard as I did to become pregnant only to have an abortion. But like most people, I was faced with what felt like an impossible and incredibly difficult decision, Nessel said. Because of that procedure, it's always so polite when they just call it a procedure and then they just sort of ignore the life that was taken. Because of that procedure, it allowed me to carry those other two babies long enough for them to be born alive. So I don't know. I was trying to find out some more to this story, and unless I'm assuming she wasn't carrying triplets and there was some kind of medical emergency. But I don't know. To me, it seems weird when women who have abortion, like you had when the woman who was in Greatest Showman, I think she was on Dawson's Creek. But she was at the Golden Globes, and is it Rachel Williams? Is that her name? I think it's Rachel Williams. And she was holding her Golden Globe in her hand, talking about how she's pregnant, full on pregnant, and how reproductive freedoms allowed her the opportunity to get where she is and choose when she's going to have her family. And so to me, it is bizarre. And there's women who have had abortions in the past and they're like happy because they were able to make the decisions and have the family that they have now. But I have noticed that some of them can't even acknowledge that they did that was a baby in a life that they took. So there's that sort of disassociation there to cope with what they've done. And I don't know, it sounds like Sophie's Choice to me. Like, you guys ever seen that film with Meryl Streep and the Nazi's like, you have to decide, you're gonna shoot the boy or the girl, which one do you want to live? And she ended up picking the son and they shot the daughter. But that's not what abortion is. It's not an either or, and 99% of the times when you choose to have one, it's you taking an action that just results in taking the life of a person. So I'm finding out a little bit more about her and why I guess it's so near and dear to her heart, but she's not doing as she's supposed to as the Attorney General, and it's not saving women. She is fighting to harm other women. That's just the reality of what it is. You can dress it up and just call it procedure if you want and ignore the humanity of a child, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I know there's people who follow me who are pro-choice and don't necessarily like abortion, but still believe that a woman should have that right. Um, so here's the thing about them trying to make it enshrined in the Michigan Constitution and say that women have the right to abortion, which there is no right to abortion. It's not in the Constitution, etc. But that's what they want the Michigan Constitution to say. If the woman has the right to abortion, okay, here's a question everybody should answer when they're having this debate. To me, this is there's only two relevant questions to me in the abortion debate. You can say there's a lot of nuance or whatever, but these are the two important questions. When does life begin? We know it begins at conception, right? I'm not talking about your value of life. That's irrelevant to me, actually. That's totally irrelevant. When does life begin? When was your origin? Obviously, conception. That's when your origin, when life begins. Human life as a unique individual. Okay? I'm not saying that you don't still depend on your mother and all this other kind of stuff, and you need to be in the environment to survive and grow, but obviously your origin begins at conception. Okay? That's not up for debate. When does the right to life kick in? Because there's people like Obama who said that was above his pay grade, yet he still believes in defending abortion and not voting present to not preserve children who survive abortions. And his White House agreed with the Democrats striking down like a bill that would have protected children in the womb if their mothers decided to selectively have abortions based on gender. But he can't say when life begins, but he has an opinion on upholding abortion. That seems sketchy to me. When does the right to life kick in? That's something you have to answer. And if you can't answer it, I don't think you should have much of an opinion on this. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, but sometimes your opinions are very entitled. When does the right to life kick in? Because if women have the right to abortion, and if, like Hillary Clinton said, the unborn don't have any rights, that's how she claimed it is in our country. That's what she said in 2016. If that is the case, that actively justifies abortion up to 9 months. That's what it does. And you can say, well, that's terrible. Women wouldn't do that. Even like, have you guys seen an aborted fetus at like third trimester? Because there's fetuses right now that there's images circulating. I've showed them on this show of third trimester abortion victims. You cannot look me, maybe you can, okay? But I think it's hard for a rational person to look at some of those images, #JusticeForThe5, to look at those images and say, yeah, a woman totally has the right to do that to a baby at 28, 29, 30 weeks. I would love for Whitmer to look at those images and to look us in the eye and say a woman has the right to do that and no one should tell her otherwise. I would love Nessel to look at those images, to look us in the eye and say that a woman totally has the right to do that. Because if the ultimate right is the woman has the right to do that, then viability doesn't matter. It's in her body. Viability doesn't matter. I don't even think viability is a good argument, honestly. I know people make it all the time. It doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make a lick of sense to me because it's still in her body. And you could say, well, the consideration for the child and how they can feel pain, etc. Doesn't matter if you don't think it has the right to life. Doesn't matter. So if you're not willing to grant it some kind of rights to protect it, it doesn't matter. So when you say you're pro-choice, please know exactly what you're standing up for. Please know that. You can say, well, I don't like it. It's just like a necessary evil. Like, I hard disagree. So Nessel's not doing her job. So there's that. Let's talk about Whitmer. Because Whitmer is just full of it, guys. Absolutely full of it. Whitmer, so she filed the court filings and stuff in Oakland County, but she's trying to use her executive power or whatever to push it to the Michigan Supreme Court. And right now they are a left-leaning court. The Democrats outnumber the Republicans. Excuse me. And if you guys recall, last year I went to the Democrat Party picnic, and one of the Supreme Court justices was there, Bernstein, which he is up for re-election. FYI, vote him out. But when he was there, the thing that, like, I mean, there's good people there. We had nice conversations. They did not know I was a Republican. I did not announce that. It was undercover, right? So there were good people there. But the thing that just threw me for a loop was that they were going around saying Republicans have no empathy, they don't care about people. And Bernstein is one of those people who said that. He said, I love being a Democrat because we actually care about people. And I've been to events with judges speaking, know a couple of them pretty well, and I've never heard anyone say something that blatantly partisan and delusional before. And then he also talked about the most important quality about being a judge isn't how intellectual you are, how well studied you are, how well you write. He's like, it's your lived experiences and having like empathy for the individuals and stuff. And I'm like, but what about the law? Like, your job is actually to interpret the law. And I understand maybe you have some things at your discretion, but the most important thing is the law. Like, is how you know the law, understand the law, and wanting to protect the law, because we believe that these laws, hopefully if they're on the books and we assume that they're just and they're going to help protect people's rights. And that's how you protect the citizens of Michigan, not just feeling your way out of a situation. So that's one of the judges who would be making the decisions. And if he feels more empathetic to the woman having the abortion rather than the victim of the abortion, then I can see them, I don't know, bypassing the actual law. But here's the thing: this question was also already asked in the appeals court of 1997, and they could not conclude that there was a right in the Michigan Constitution to have an abortion. Doesn't exist. But Whitmer doesn't care. So she could have taken this to the legislature and been like, hey, I want this bill passed, and have the Democrats write up a bill and watch it. But she couldn't do that because obviously they wouldn't have made it through. They wouldn't have made it to her desk. She could make her case and say, hey, we should have a right to an abortion and put on the ballot, which there's already like initiative going on right now anyway. So they could wait for that, but that's probably, hopefully, wouldn't succeed. But she doesn't want to wait for that to maybe fail. So she's going to the court because it sways a particular way. Because if it was a Republican majority or a conservative majority that was going to uphold the law, she wouldn't bother, or maybe she would. Maybe out of I don't know, desperation and fundraising and stuff. But she's hoping that the activist judges are going to sway in her favor. But there is no constitutional right, period, for an abortion. And there's certainly not one in the Michigan Constitution. There's just not. There just isn't. So this is her statement. Today, I'm filing a lawsuit to keep abortion legal in Michigan. With SCOTUS's willingness to overturn Roe v. Wade, I'm using my authority as the governor to go directly to Michigan Supreme Court to urge them to decide if abortion is constitutional. It's bold, but necessary. Here's why. First, I want to be extremely clear. However we personally feel about abortion, health, not politics, this is politics, sweetheart, should not drive important medical decisions. When people always just talk about it's healthcare and it's medical decisions and blah, 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 I'm like, is the baby healthier after the abortion? Is the baby healthier after the abortion? Cut the crap. Just cut the crap. And I did a TikTok comment to someone and replied and made a video, and they're saying that, don't you think women can be healthier after abortion? No, I don't. If you can grasp what it is, why would a woman be mentally healthier after that? And there are women who don't end up conceiving after that. There are women who have damage to their bodies. There are women who've died after those procedures. There are women who have extraordinary regret. And sometimes it doesn't happen instantly, but it will creep up on people after time. And then there's people who are just deranged and will not even admit that it was a baby. So no, I'm sorry. I don't believe that women are better off when they have that procedure. And that's my opinion, but that's just how my observations. We need to trust our friends, family, and neighbors to make the decisions that are best for them and to keep politicians out of it. So this is the line that really, really ticks me off. because she was she was one of the most tyrannical governors in the entire pandemic. She didn't trust the neighbors. She didn't trust Michiganders to make their own decisions. She ran edict after edict. And when the court struck her down, she found a loophole and still terrorized the people of Michigan. So don't tell me you care about a woman's privacy and you care about their rights to choose and stuff when you didn't care about that stuff in any other circumstances. That's another thing I don't get. People are like, right to privacy. Like, oh, but if you don't have the COVID shot, you should be fired from your job. And by the way, a shot that's not going to stop you from spreading it. Always ridiculous. It was always ridiculous. Some of the edicts, but before there was even like the shot going around, before that, it was you got to social distance, you got to wear your mask, and they muzzled those kids for so long, and there was it kept them out of school. It's having all this sort of social damage that we're seeing now. Well, there was evident probably before, but people are even admitting now how much kind of mental health and was done to these kids, mental harm, and how they're behind in schools dramatically. Children they're behind in actually learning how to speak, because they learn by watching your mouth move. There's been so much harm, and children were never in any serious sort of danger, but they scared parents to keeping those kids muzzled. There are kids still like having lockdown schools even in this year in the state of Michigan. I think when she gave the state of the state, I don't think she knew that Flint still had like remote learning. So, and then she tweeted out like a week or two ago, like, we need to have kids in schools. And people are like, are you just trying to rewrite history, ma'am? They said who was essential, who wasn't essential. So if you have a flower shop and you want to sell flowers on Mother's Day, if you can't do that, you're probably going to go out of business. They don't care. You have to go to Meijer or something and get that stuff, these big box stores or Kroger and whatnot, or order them online so Amazon can make more money and your mom and pop shop can go out. But guess what? That person who's selling Big Macs at McDonald's, that person is essential. So they picked winners and losers. People lost their jobs. People lost their businesses. They lost their livelihoods. They conditioned people to stay home, wasted a ton of money, like unemployment fraud and other stuff like that. And there was people who couldn't get their unemployment for the longest of time. My sister had such a hard time getting her stuff. It was just wild. And then they sectioned off certain sections in grocery stores, like, oh, seeds aren't essential. You can't go buy it. You can't get paint thinner or whatever, which my sister who paints was just up in arms about that, because she's like, that's part of my business. I sell art. I need access to this stuff. How dare you tell me it's not essential? They didn't want you to go out on a boat if it had a motor, but you could if there was a canoe. And as soon as she lifted those dumb edicts, her husband wanted to be first in the water with special privileges. I'm the governor's husband. Which that was an embarrassing little scandal for her. So when she maliciously went after people who cut hair and all kinds of other stuff. But when the court said she overused her powers, overstepped her boundaries, she went to like licensing agencies and health departments and stuff. So if the restaurants didn't enforce her edicts, they would come for their business and take away their license or whatever. So she turned the people of Michigan against each other. So you had the businesses against their customers. She created so much dysfunction. And I don't even think I mentioned in this rant about how she was one of the governors who mixed the nursing home patients with COVID patients. And then there was also they're noticing a disproportionate amount of people of color dying of COVID. And so she issued like that you had to take, nurses and people had to take like implicit bias training. Oh, because it can't be underlying conditions, like we're the more unhealthier folks, you know. It just had to be that the healthcare providers are racist. So these frontline workers are heroes, but you're also going to call them racist. And maybe they don't think too deeply about what they do when they institute that stuff, but that's the implication there. That people are dying because they're racist. Their patients are dying because they're racist. That's the implication there. These are all the things that the governor did and more. So when she's like, we need to trust our neighbors and our friends, that's a load of crap. It's a load of crap. We should keep politicians out of it. Now, there are people who have the position that politicians, like, they don't like abortion, but they don't think the government should be involved with that. There are a few things that the government has a legitimate role of, and one of them is protecting your rights. So if the unborn has a right to life, tell me why it's not in the interest of the government to protect the right to life. Don't you want them to defend your right to life in other circumstances? Even if you were murdered, don't you want someone to go on trial for that? So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know how many people have thought that through. But there are legitimate roles of government. You think the legitimate role of government is to protect women and doctors to conspire to kill their children? I don't think so. I don't think so. In the clinics, like someone like Planned Parenthood, they make sure they get their funding, Democrats, and then they go around and they make sure they help elect Democrats like Gretchen Whitmer. It is a vicious cycle, and not an ounce of sincerity. Let me go on. You may know that Michigan has an abortion ban on the books from 1931. Currently, this outdated unconstitutional law is superseded by the decision of Roe v. Wade. However, if Roe is overturned in a few weeks, the ban goes into effect. Abortion becomes illegal. If that happens, nearly 2.2 million women will lose access to legal abortion, which won't be legal anymore. Let me put that into perspective for you. They lose their reproductive freedom, economic freedom, and are denied the right to chart their own destiny. So, reproductive freedom, guys, reproduction has happened. The reproduction has happened. You've made the child. Once the child is there, the reproduction has happened. You've reproduced another human being. And in like 99% of the cases, they came out of consensual circumstances. So that's just a talking point. Again, no sincerity behind that. But the economic freedom thing really freaks me out. And I've talked about this before. As someone who grew up in some financially tight situations, it weirds me out when people justify abortion with economics. That is eugenics. Someone should not be able to live because of their economic status. The point of eugenics is to breed out suffering. This is a creepy... demonic is the second word that came to mind. Talking point. I'll just go with that. Demonic. And I know that is a huge reason why women actually do choose to have abortion. That is out of convenience. That is out of convenience. And life is not linear. Life is not linear at all. You may come into a situation where you get a better job, where people help you out. They get you to the next level, where you're making more money. A child does not have to, like, people always see that the future is female, want to do all this women empowerment stuff, but yet you teach young women that the thing that they're designed to do is some kind of huge detriment to the rest of their lives. It doesn't make any sense. So, no, you're not going to lose economic freedom. You may have to make a sacrifice or two, but why should the sacrifice be the life of your baby? So I can't stand this woman. No matter what happens to Roe, I'm going to fight like heck and use, she didn't say heck, but I'm going to fight like heck and use all the tools I have as governor to ensure reproductive freedom is protected. Today in court, I represent all those who deserve the freedom to choose their own future, except for the unborn, obviously. That's a fight worth having. So that's her statement. Again, she's hoping for judicial activism. And I want to know where Gretchen Whitmer believes the right to life begins. I want that to be a plain question, and I want a plain answer. Because if a woman believes that she just has the right to abortion, period, and you hold the Hillary Clinton position that the unborn don't have any rights, you got to be born before you have any rights, which is inconsistent, because if someone harms a pregnant woman and the baby dies or something, you can or the pregnant mother she's killed or whatever be like double homicide. So we have inconsistent laws and stuff as in thinking as far as that goes anyway. But if you are of the opinion that the unborn has no rights, it has no right to life, how can you not argue for 9-month abortions up to the 9 months, third trimester? How can you not? How can you not? Look me in the eye. I'm going to show you these images from the other day from the 5. I have 2. There were more than 5 babies that they found, but there were 5 that were third trimester. And I have a picture with just 2. And it is gruesome. So I'm going to give you a little warning. I'm going to count to 3 and then I'm going to show it. 1, 2, 3. Look me in the eye and tell me you believe a woman has the right to do that. Look me in the eye and tell me you think a woman has the right to do that. It's gone now. You can look back. And those are hard images to look at. Even still. And I've had to look at them for a while. It's even still hard. So this is judicial activism. That's what she's hoping for. Nessel's totally forgetting the law or not going to follow it because she doesn't want to, because it's inconvenient. She doesn't want to. She doesn't see why she should have to, even though she's attorney general. That's her job. So I did ask a few people who's running for a statewide office for comment. And I did get a few. Ryan Kelly, I asked if he had a statement. And he shot me this text. Whitmer doesn't value the life of the elderly. Whitmer doesn't value the lives of the non-essential. Whitmer doesn't value the lives of the unborn, which is a direct reflection of her absence of value of the lives of others unless it fits her political agenda. Whitmer is also a science denier. A new life starts at conception. The radical left refuses to acknowledge this and continues to push their extremism ideas, which do not value human life. Ryan Kelly, he's running for governor. One of the candidates running for governor. DePerno basically said Whitmer, Nessel, and Benton must go. That's basically the gist of it. But he's running for attorney general, and somebody's got to beat her. Somebody's got to beat her. I know that Tudor Dixon also had a comment as well. And I was looking for other ones, and I just, I think Tom Leonard did tweet something about it, calling out Dana Nessel, which she's running for attorney general again. Give me 1 second. Democrat politicians worked. She said if Democrat politicians worked a 10th as hard on policies to build up American families as much as they do on policies to promote and allow abortion on demand, there wouldn't be much demand for abortion. The American family is under attack by liberal elites who hate the American people. That was a good statement. Kelly had a good statement too. Tudor Dixon is running for governor. And so I'll be collecting some more statements, putting them on my site. I plan to write an article about this. I don't know if it's going to get feistier or more passionate than I am right now in this moment explaining it all, but that's what's going on in Michigan. I have a more condensed video that I did a TikTok about earlier that you guys can feel free to share, that I put on my TikTok and I put on my Facebook. It's too long for me to put on Twitter right now, and I think it's too long maybe for Instagram. I guess I could put on Instagram TV. But if you have a if you're on TikTok, if you're on Facebook, please, you can share that. You can feel free to repost it too. You don't just have to just share it directly my thing. If there's someone out there who has some kind of bigger platform and they feel if they repost it, it'll get more views and stuff, feel free to do that. I just want people to know. I just want people to know that Dana Nessel doesn't plan on following the law, that Whitmer plans on using judicial activism, and that we have activists on the court that might make a heinous decision that actually goes against our Michigan Constitution. And again, you can make changes to the Constitution, Michigan Constitution. That you can do that. As a matter of fact, in 2018, they did make changes in regard to how we do the redistricting. That did actually change our constitution. So there are ballot proposals that did that, and the people have tried to do ballot proposals in the past. But even when I didn't know as much about politics, when I would see something on the ballot and it would be like, it'll change the Michigan Constitution, I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't want to do that. So yeah, I think it would probably fail, even though most people want. I don't know. I don't even think most people. There's a lot of people out there who do want to protect a woman's right to choose. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of women out there who feel that way because I don't think. I think they feel that it's too mean to just say no. You can't do that. I think that's what a lot of it comes down to. I think there's people who are ambivalent and they're just like, I don't care enough to tell them no, which I don't think that's great either. But can't you just tell them no and just be like, I don't care what you think and go on from there? So that puzzles me. That puzzles me too. That puzzles me too. So anyway, let's move on. I'm going a little long today, but I do want to quickly talk about this Hunter Biden story with the Atlantic. So Anne Applebaum, who writes for the Atlantic, had this comment the other day, was asked by a college student about the Hunter Biden laptop, and she kind of just dismissed it as something that's not important, which we just know is full of crap, absolute crap. Uh-oh.
Let's take
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. I'm Daniel Schmidt. I'm a freshman at the University of Chicago. My question is for Ms. Applebaum. So in 2020, you wrote, those who live outside the Fox News bubble do not, of course, need to learn any of the stuff about Hunter Biden, referring to his laptop, of course. A poll later after that found that if voters knew about the content of the laptop, 16% of Joe Biden voters would have acted differently. Now, of course, we know a few weeks ago, the New York Times confirmed that the content is real. Do you think the media acted inappropriately when they instantly dismissed Hunter Biden's laptop as Russian disinformation? And what can we learn from that in ensuring that what we label as disinformation is truly disinformation and not reality?
My problem with Hunter Biden's laptop is I think it's totally irrelevant. I mean, it's not whether it's disinformation or, I mean, I don't think the Hunter Biden's business relationships have anything to do with who should be president of the United States. So I didn't.
She's a gosh darn liar. She's a gosh darn liar. These people lie. These people love to lie. Let's play a game. Just in your head, anytime something comes to your mind and it's Hunter Biden, just flip it out, just swap it out and say Donald Trump Jr. Say it's Donald Trump Jr. So tell me if it was like the October surprises season and there's like, oh my gosh, there's all these pictures of Donald Trump Jr. Naked and smoking, have bongs and all this other kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, there's all these emails and stuff implicating that he's used his father's name and privilege and stuff and is cutting deals and giving it 10% to the big man, to Donald Trump. Come on. You're telling me that wouldn't be like news? They would have impeached Trump before the darn election, I think. He would have had 3 impeachments. They impeached him over that. Trump calls it the perfect phone call. It wasn't the perfect phone call, but so come on. People on the right like to say they impeached Trump for stuff that Biden actually did. Like, if this was Donald Trump Jr., the press on the left would have reacted in a totally different manner. And then it's just egregious that New York Post was censored for a real story. For a real story. I can understand people being like, at first, but obviously stuff started to come out from it that was obviously true. That people were actually verifying. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. But she is so insincere and she is lying about this through her teeth, saying it's not important, it's not interesting, it has nothing to do. The story involves Biden. The story involves Biden.
I don't find it to be interesting. I mean, that would be my problem with that as a major news story.
We're going to talk about more of this tomorrow in our first panel, so stand by. And I think we have run out of time.
Oh, how convenient. You just run out of time. It's the end of the day. The end of the session. We got to put it on hold. Yeah, right. So these people are, it's not interesting. First of all, it's darn interesting. It's darn interesting. How can you say it's not interesting? But she'd have a totally different view. Jack Posobiec tweeted a couple different things, found a couple tweets from her in the past. And this was October 3rd, 2019. Am I getting tired of hearing about how corrupt Ukraine is? You know which country is corrupt? The United States. We have a president who is using the White House to make money, presidential children who are using their father's prestige to make money. That was in 2019. So this tweet is from March 28, 2017. And Natasha Bertrand had a statement posting about his son-in-law, Trump's son-in-law. And she said, this is why the white president's son-in-law should be nowhere near the White House. And she had a tweet in September 16th, 2017. What is this puff piece about Ivanka Trump doing on the cover of this magazine with zero investigation of her conflicts of interest? And then she goes on, and then they have a tweet from the Post Millennial with this article saying that this stuff is irrelevant. It's just the dishonesty for me. It's the dishonesty for me. So I know in general there's a lot of people who wouldn't find it interesting. But if you were just gossiping about this stuff, wouldn't it be interesting? At least for some of that. I mean, these are like the trashiest, richest, famous, powerful people that you know. I mean, it's good sitcom stuff, I think. So to say that it's just not interesting, that's a lie. She has a newspaper. And you know, the Atlantic is the paper that ran the piece about the losers and suckers story, about claiming that Trump didn't go to like the grave site when he was like in France and whatever, because he claimed that he didn't want to because he thought they were losers and suckers and just didn't think it was important. When the truth is that there was the weather and it was kind of, they didn't want to take the helicopter and on like going by the road or whatever, it was going to be kind of too hard or whatever to get him in and out if there was a situation. Which that stuff was documented. That's something I wrote about on blacktnews.com to debunk that. And which it was a brilliant sort of hit though, which was obviously coordinated because as soon as they dropped that piece, they like immediately had ads and whatever running in the morning time, you know? So I think there was probably some media manipulation and stuff as coordination with the Democrats and stuff as far as when they decided to drop that hit piece. But it was a strong hit because Trump's love of the military and the military's love of him, or at least that perception, was one of its major benefits. So to come out with a hit that's centered and attacking his love and respect for the troops, that it was a good hit. Dishonest though, deeply dishonest. And so there are people who were there that day who were like, this didn't happen, this isn't true. And you can say, well, I don't want to trust Trump's people. John Bolton, they asked him about it. He said, if Trump had actually said that, and I was aware of him saying that, I would have written an entire chapter about it in my book. Because Bolton didn't end up liking Trump very much. So the Atlantic, don't tell me that the Hunter Biden story isn't interesting or whatever. You just don't want to run it because you want to protect Joe Biden. Because it does very much implicate Joe Biden as well. He's the big man taking the 10%, which isn't like on his tax return. So how is that? How does he hide his 10%? I think that's an interesting question. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today on Black Tea News. Please make sure that you guys check out my website, check out different articles that I've written, like the one where I debunked the losers and suckers thing. Maybe you didn't know that was debunked, but I did debunk it. So you can go ahead and check out that article and other articles that I've written on my site. Make sure that you guys are following me across social media platforms. All of my handles are at Black Tea News. except for my Twitter one. That one is at True Black Tea. But I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Getter, on all these different kind of apps. There's a lot of links if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. You should make sure you follow me there. Make sure that you guys check out different merchandise. I don't think I showed you guys any merchandise today. I got the My Money, My Business shirt, which I think is really good for the abortion argument because a lot of them want to involve your taxpayer dollars. So it is obviously your business. So you guys can get that shirt from the shop. I got the You Are Not That Special mug. And I do also have that cute little star on t-shirts as well. Got the black tea mug, which I actually got that right here. You guys can get that from the website, as well as like the Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document with Frederick Douglass, for all those bitter people out there who want to destroy the 4th of July and the Constitution and etc. So anyway, you guys can check out more stuff, Black Tea News. If you enjoy what I do here and you like today's episode and stuff, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.